What is up, Tactical Empire Nation? This is Shawn coming at you with a very short episode today to acknowledge and pat ourselves on the back that we, the Tactical Empire, are over 200 podcast episodes deep. Everything started from zero and we have built upon it. So we appreciate you guys coming in and listening to us on the regular, whether it's Jeff and I, just Jeff, or just me, or the men from the Tactical Empire Inner Circle, or other very amazing guests that we bring on the show. We do not take your time lightly. So when you set aside 5, 10, 15, sometimes 30 minutes to listen to the Tactical Empire podcast, we greatly appreciate it. And we love hearing the value that you guys get from the episodes. But that milestone comes with its own lessons, right? A very quick Google search will show you that the majority of people who set out to start a podcast do not make it to episode 4. They quit after 3. Then there's a very large drop off at around the 10 episode mark. And then when you hit 100 episodes, according to the interwebs, you're in the top 10% of podcasters in terms of quantity of episodes. We are now over 200 episodes deep. And so pod fade is real. Podcast fading is real. So once you hit 200 episodes, you, statistically speaking, again, there's no perfect records out there, you are in the top 1% of podcasts that have hit that number. And so when we talk about other areas of life, such as investing in real estate, okay, 90% of real estate investors own less than 3 properties. Okay, so that tells you that if you can get to 10, you are most certainly in the top 10%. If you can get to 50, 100, 100 plus, you're in the top 1% of real estate investors in the world. Let's change it to something like fitness. If you go to the gym 3 days a week, you are probably well surpass the majority of people. You're in the top 10% if you work out consistently. If you go 4 days a week, you're even in the single digits. If you go 5 days a week, you're in the top 1%. If you focus on moving your body and eating well and getting over 7 hours of sleep a night, you're in the top 1% of the people in the world that take their fitness seriously. Now, I can't speak for the entire world, but in the United States, if you are married and you plan to stay married and you continue to be married, over 60% of people get divorces now. And believe it or not, the divorce rate for people that are on marriage number 2 is even higher than marriage number 1. So why am I repeating all of this? It's to show the importance of consistency. It's to show the importance to keep showing up and do what it is that you said you would do. Do the work that yields the results. There are certainly things that you have committed to that you ended up not liking, that brought more stress into your life. Don't be consistent and don't be committed to those if they're not yielding the results or they create more stress than some alternative route. This is not a do everything forever type of lesson. This is a finding the things that yield the results that you want in the areas that are most important to you and do those 80 to 90% of your time. Allocate the other 10 to 20% to try new strategies, 1, maybe 2 at a time. But those new strategies that people consistently look for in the realm of fitness, in the realm of relationship building, in the realm of finances, they are losing time. They are cutting into the compounding of the habit that they created. And it's this stop-start continuum. If you constantly have a habit of stopping your habits, of stopping your new tasks, of stopping the new things that you're trying, you are making no progress. You are the sprinter versus the marathoner. Okay. If Jeff and I had data that showed that doing a podcast is irrelevant to the growth of our men's mastermind, the Tactical Empire Inner Circle, we would probably stop the podcast. But there's clear data to show that we have listeners, that our community, both in the Inner Circle and the free community on Facebook, listen to the podcast. We now have data that people have found us because of the podcast. They are not connected to us in some other area of life. They came across the podcast on their podcast platform of choice, and they started listening to us, and then they sign up and get in the Inner Circle. So we know that this is something that we want to continue to do. I can say the one thing that I struggle with on the podcast is what I just said, is finding the new shiny thing to talk about. We try and put a twist on some of the things, some of the lessons. Things are happening in our lives, so we bring those lessons in and we tie them back to the main pillars. But at the end of the day, we know that the 4 F's, the main pillars of the foundation of life that we build and what we help the men in the Inner Circle build, and these strategies that we implement, whether that's in your family, fitness, finances, or freedom, we know that they work. So the struggle I have is coming on the podcast and talking about, in theory, the same things over and over and over again. We try and keep it fresh, like I said, with the things that are occurring in our life or bringing on other people. But at the end of the day, there's only a handful of things that we talk about. So while we appreciate the listeners, this goes back to what I said about only reading 3 books this year, and what we posted on the Tactical Empire's Instagram account is there comes a time where, yes, knowledge is power, but action is what builds empires. So while we appreciate the listeners on the podcast, the question is, have you taken action from the words that we have spoken over 200 plus episodes? Marinate on that thought today as you wrap up this short episode. We appreciate you guys. We are going nowhere. We've been building this business for over a year together, but Jeff has been building it for 3 years, and we feel like we are just now getting traction and getting started. So we have so much more value to bring to the listeners and those that are in the Inner Circle. We do have our first annual meetup, one of 2 for 2025, coming up in April. That is in Jacksonville, Florida. We would greatly appreciate people that are on the fence about signing up for the Inner Circle, getting into the Inner Circle now, and then meeting us in person in Jacksonville while you've made progress on the foundational curriculum that we have for new people. That way, when you get to meet us in person, we can make even greater strides past the foundation curriculum. We appreciate you guys. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next episode.